Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Victoire. I am your host, Emir. Before I begin today's broadcast, I ask that you kindly subscribe to our channel, like, and share our videos. It helps us spread these stories much further. Today's guest broke into the world of professional wrestling during a time of change. He was involved in a number of fantastic angles, including a rap battle with Mr. John Cena. He was a former WWE Tag Team Champion, Cruiserweight Champion. He competed in New Japan, TNA, and all around the world. He's a true master psychologist in the world of wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, the Brian Kendrick. Victoire. Sponsored by Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. For all your healthy produce, supplements, and grocery needs, visit Clark's Nutrition. For all your pro wrestling memorabilia and to meet and greet some of your favorite superstars, visit the Wrestling Guy store in Huntington Park, California, and in Phoenix, Arizona. Alternatively, if you want to order online, visit www.thewrestlingguystore.com. A tattoo is for life, and so why not visit one of the most reputable tattoo companies in California, Trusted Tattoo Company and Mobile Body Art Bus, 760-645-0485. Looking to advertise your business? Look no further than the premier Southern California advertising magazine, Your Villa Magazine, 951-990-8855. Go ahead, be a rebel, and support independent news in the San Diego area. Valley News also offering advertising opportunities, 760-723-7319. Casual clothing that makes you feel like $1 million. Or if you are seeking custom t-shirts, look no further than J Money Clothing, 760-367-8566. Palm Springs, California, Indian Wells, California, Rancho Mirage, California. They are all considered a destination hotspot, a second home haven. With an exquisite record of negotiating the finest deals for clients, Lowell Folsom III and Associates always deliver. Contact Lowell today at 760-391-2504. And now, on with the show. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Victoire. Today, I have the pleasure of being able to interview one of the greats, certainly a great mind in the world of professional wrestling, Brian Kendrick. Brian, welcome to Victoire.
Thanks for having me, Amir. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, looking forward to it too. It's a pleasure to have you here. I met Brian over the weekend. Tremendous guy. Lived up to all the expectations that I had. So, Brian, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Amir.
So, Brian, let's start at the way back at the beginning. Let's talk about your childhood. Let's talk about your interest then, and a little bit about your life back then, where you grew up. What some of your original dreams were. Was it pro wrestling? Was it something else? Fill the audience in as to who you are.
Okay. Yeah, so I first really paid attention to wrestling when I was about 10 years old. It was WrestleMania 6. It was the Ultimate Warrior. Before that, I guess I wanted to be He-Man. There was nothing I wanted to be. But when I saw professional wrestling, it was something that I got excited about and did I consumed it as much as I could. Back then, it was through VHS rentals,
Yeah.
and that was it. I mean, I didn't think it would be possible until I was in high school and I heard of pro wrestling schools, and so at least there was an actual route to get to where I want to go. And when I heard about that, I decided to gamble on myself and become a professional wrestler.
Yeah. Where did you grow up, Brian?
Grew up in Washington State, a town called Olympia or Lacey. But as far as like state capitals go, it's the capital of Washington State. That might be the only reason anybody here would have heard of Olympia.
Yeah. So you got this interest for pro wrestling at that time. Was there anything else at that age that grabbed your attention? I mean, you mentioned He-Man as well. Great, by the way. I loved He-Man too. My mom actually made me a He-Man costume when I was a kid.
Oh, that's nice.
So, anything else during that period that may have caught your attention as well?
Oh, I mean, the same as other kids. I love basketball. Um, I was gifted in Isaiah Thomas basketball as a youngster. I love basketball. Became baseball and football fan too. American football. Uh, Video games, movies, just all the stuff that other kids liked. I like doing those things.
Yeah.
But pro wrestling was totally different than anything else. I actively tried to find as much of it as I could.
Yeah. Were you very athletic, naturally inclined to be athletic?
No, I had a lot of energy. I would run around a lot. It was hard for me to like sit down and be calm, but I wasn't gifted at any of the sports I played. I wasn't uh, a captain or a leader or talented. I just like to play.
Okay. Now I've got you mentioned they're talented, and I would disagree with that. I think you are talented in many ways, Brian.
Kind
Um,
of is.
but creatively as well, because there's a lot of creativity that goes into wrestling, tons of creativity.
Mm.
And so what were you like in that area with art and things like that?
Um, I wasn't. I wasn't good. Well, I wasn't a good drawer. I wasn't a good painter. I had no knack for anything. I like to create. I always like to build things, whether it be making board games with my sister and brother or little contraptions. And even to this day, I build costumes. I've got like a sculpt right here I'm working on currently.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not good, but I
Yeah.
like to do it.
Would you like to be creative? And I think
I
that's,
do.
yeah, definitely something that you can pour into in the world of pro wrestling. What you mentioned your brother and sister there. So family life, were you guys a pretty tight unit, you and your parents?
Well, it was my mother, my mother's father, my grandfather, my sister, my brother, and for a good chunk of that time, my aunt, my mother's sister, and I lived together. My father uh, fled, was put in prison, and all that jazz when I was a young age. But as far as the rest of us goes, yeah, we lived together, still talk, have a good relationship, all that stuff.
Now, I must ask about being an extrovert, because in wrestling, you have to be an extrovert. So were you always like that, or was that something that had to develop as you matured?
Um, I would say even to this day, I would imagine I'd be more introverted than extroverted.
Yeah.
Um, I don't mind being alone. Uh, I don't mind if it's in a crowded situation, me almost observing the situation or being in the room but not being a part of it. The idea of being the center of attention or having any of attention, a lot of the times I wouldn't want any of that. Um, but I guess in pro wrestling, you're performing, it's an outer body experience. Maybe what draws me to it is that that's my shadow and I want to be the center of attention. I don't know, but it's a polar opposite of sorts.
Yeah.
But in real life, I'm introverted. I would bet.
Oh, okay. Wow. So when you first started coming out on the big stage, what was that like in terms of nerves and adrenaline? Were you able to deal with that quite well?
Yeah, the closest thing it's to for me is if you've like jumped off of a bridge into a river or something like that, where it's going to be cold, it's going to be a little bit scary, and it's either you jump or you don't jump, and so it's building the nerves until you jump.
Yeah.
It feels like that. Like here we go. There's nothing you can do once you walk through the curtain.
Right.
Yeah, I still get nervous. I still get nervous. Um, Going through that, my first entrance for a match after graduating from Shawn school, I wore puffy pink women's pants and I came out to Genie in a bottle. So I kind of just threw myself out there. I never danced before.
Yeah.
So that was it. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but yeah.
Oh wow. Now you mentioned Shawn School there. So now let's go back in time again. So you're in high school, you're looking for wrestling schools at this point. So was Shawn's the first place that you discovered?
No, I applied to various schools, didn't hear back. Um, one school finally accepted me, NWA Southwest. It was Kit Carson and Chris Germany, good coaches, nice guys, good company. But uh, from there, I decided I wanted to find Jose Lothario, the guy who trained Shawn Michaels. In that time period, Shawn Michaels and Jose Lothario opened up a school together, so I chased that.
Yeah, yeah. And let's talk a little bit about that time period because obviously that's what captured your attention. You mentioned WrestleMania 6.
Mm,
That was one of my favorites. Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan main event. I that event to me was perfect from bell to bell all the way
mm.
through matches. So growing up in the 90s, we know that the Ultimate Warrior was one of your favorites. Who else kind of captivated that attention span that you had as a child?
As a child, Coco Beware. Ultimate Warrior is the first one I saw. I thought, wow, this guy's awesome. He's everything. And then I saw Coco Beware, and he became my favorite. He was just colorful, fun, full of energy. Um, but I like that he didn't take any crap from anybody. You know, he wasn't just because he was fun loving and had the bird. He wasn't a whip. He was real good at firing back.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I still argue to this day Coco Beware belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'm glad he's in the Hall of Fame. I think he's absolutely underrated. Coco
Oh yeah.
Beware was my favorite.
No, yeah, he was definitely good. I remember when they repackaged him with was it High Energy actually? There you go.
Hmm.
High Energy with Owen Hart. Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
cool for him back then. That was a man, you're taking me back now.
There
Hearing
you
about
go.
all this stuff. So now when you get to but oh sorry, I'm backtracking a little bit. What kind of jobs did you do along the way to support yourself while you were training?
Mm. Um, Working at pizza place, being either dishwasher, making pizzas, making pastas, ultimately to a ski lift operator on Mount Baldy.
All right.
Um, and yeah, those were the gigs that allowed me to have the flexibility. Oh, and also I worked uh, at a grocery store decorating cakes.
Oh,
And I
really?
didn't, yeah, but I don't know how. I mean, it was really bad. I remember a lady even taking it from me and doing it herself for her own son's birthday. It was bad, but I did it. I did
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do. So then you get to the point now where you meet Shawn. I mean, gosh,
Mm.
what was that like for you, Brian?
It was, yeah, intimidating, I guess. I mean, it's a guy who I'd seen on TV, and he's very sure of himself. But you know, I was a young man. I was nervous around everybody all the time, anyways.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, it was. It was the closest thing to meeting a cartoon. This was Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, he inspired me to work hard. You know, this is a guy whose work I enjoyed, and so I wanted him to be impressed by me, and so that really motivated me.
Yeah. Now at that school, how much were you training? How many days per week?
So it was scheduled for 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. I did about 6 hours a day, as many days as they would let me.
Okay.
I graduated the class, and then I took it again, and then I took it again, I took it again, and then I got sent to Memphis.
Okay.
Um, so it's hard, it's hard to say, but uh, I will say with absolute confidence, I put in far more hours than anybody else who went there.
Mhm. Determination. Yeah, is that you've got to. How much of learning the psychology behind wrestling was involved in the school when you were there?
That was a big part of it. Learning that it was that there's a story to be told, that there's um, you know, we tell this through the emotions and expectations of the audience, and then play with those, and try to get kind of a 3-act play out of it, or a musical song that brings us up and down. Uh, we were taught the structure, the format of the basic American style of modern wrestling. Um, and then from there I found that so fascinating, the idea of there being psychology and storytelling and trying to get people to feel certain ways, that it's become my favorite part about pro wrestling.
Yeah, and I got a firsthand experience on Saturday when we were discussing that promo right there.
Mm,
And again, I personally think it's vastly important to have those promos. I know now in pro wrestling, I mean, we all know they've kind of downsized the whole Mean Gene Okerlunds and Shawn Mooney's, really
mm.
getting that extra out of a character. How important do you think that is, Brian, to be able to have promos to really get the story out, and then also the psychology? How important do you think those things are?
So if we don't have any promos, if it's just two guys fighting, then it's just two guys fighting, and then through those two guys fighting, who I know nothing about, have no rooting interest for, I have to find their actions compelling enough for me to then decide to have a rooting interest. Um, if you have the promos, we have these characters established, and we can even get across an idea of how this person's going to fight through their words. I'm going to, you know, tonight has nothing to do with technical ability. I'm going to break your bones. Oh my God. And you can start to anticipate what this fight is going to be. I can get excited. I can talk with my friends about it. This is what makes, like a Floyd Mayweather so exciting. I want to see him get knocked out. It's
Mhm,
not that you care about his fights. Those who don't watch boxing are immensely bored by the fights,
mhm.
but they get brought in by the promos.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
in pro wrestling, we have the ability to put together a match and do the promos, so we can have all the elements. To me, I think it's a you're missing something if you don't have the promos. You can get so much more out of the promos.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I always go back to Mean Gene Okerlund and the way he
Mm,
was able to drum up that excitement before a match took place. Certainly through the '90s, the time period that we grew up as fans, and also character. Character is something that I've seen. Oh, we got gimmicks rather,
mm.
but characters seems to have dwindled down a lot over the past 15 years. Now, when you were starting, when you were at the school, were you already thinking in terms of a character, a gimmick back then?
Yeah, but I didn't know what I was going to be. I just know I needed something, and really a name was what I was looking for. And I didn't have a much of a character. Uh, I just had a style, and that style was just a baby face with a lot of heart.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot to it. And if you had a bunch of other baby faces like that, then you're just lost in the shuffle. It's good to have one of those or a tag team like that, but uh, there's not much more to it than that. So I
Okay.
didn't really have much of a character uh, when I started. It wasn't something I really considered because I didn't realize how important it was.
Mhm.
Um, and now when I think of characters, and people talk about characters, wrestlers that is, uh, and they start to explain, at least to me, it seems, these complex intricacies that have nothing to do with what you're going to do in the ring. That I'm a guy who thinks he's really handsome, but he's got problems with it. How is that going to translate with how you walk to the ring and how you approach your match?
Yeah.
Whereas an Undertaker, I understand he wrestles like a dead person. Um, so I think not only are they're not characters like they used to be, I think people are confused in that they think they're doing a character when they're not. They just got an outfit.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That made me think about again what you said on Saturday. that promo.
Mm,
It's got to be clearly defined. So there's no gray area in that character. But they have blurred the lines a lot between in the last 20 years. Is this guy a
mm,
good guy? Is he a bad guy? And I think, yeah, there needs to be more cohesive thought to go into some of these characters to really get them to go over. Like we said, we can talk about guys like yourself, guys like The Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior. They're still going to be remembered in 50 years. Some of the others that aren't so clearly defined, they may be forgotten.
mm.
I think it's extremely important. But going back to you working with Shawn, so did Shawn help? I mean, he saw obviously your talent, your passion. Was he instrumental in getting you to the next stage, or was that just based off of the natural progression of things for you?
Oh no, I mean because of who he is, he was able to get sorry. Because of who he is, he was able to get us our tryout. This is how we got our dark match.
Yeah,
Um, so absolutely uh he was how I was able to get to where I needed to go.
yeah,
And this was done intentionally. I wanted to learn from Shawn Michaels. I thought and still think he is arguably the greatest American. Well, for sure, he's arguably the greatest American wrestler of all times. I would argue that he's the greatest American wrestler of all times. Um, so I want to learn from him, but also who's the one that has the connections. So to me, it was completely intentional. I want him to think I'm good.
yeah,
And once he thinks I'm good, he's going to tell the place that I want to go to that I'm good.
yeah,
And that's what happened.
yeah, yeah. What was that? Do you remember that day? Do you remember that tryout?
I do remember the trial. And remember us standing up against the wall for hours, not knowing where to go. We were so petrified. I remember when it was time to uh, put together the match, and Shane McMahon came up to us, and I didn't know nothing about nothing. And how long do you guys need for the match? And I said, oh, like 12 minutes. And he laughed. And I didn't realize that that was absurd. Like 5 minutes is what I should have asked for, but I asked for 12 and he gave it to us.
Yeah,
Um, but I remember that by the end of the match, it was like it was undeniably it got reactions. I don't know if it was good, but we did enough dangerous stuff that it got an arena full of people going, "Whoa!" And
yeah.
so that felt really good as a dumb kid who asked for 12 minutes. I
Yeah.
was on cloud nine by the end of the night. Yeah,
How old were you at that time, Brian?
I would have been 20 years old. Yeah,
20. And what
yeah,
arena was that at? Do you remember the city?
yeah. So this would have been in the Frank Irwin Center in Austin, Texas.
In Texas. Wow.
Hmm.
That's the debut. So tell us then what happened after that. So you go back, how were you received by Shane McMahon, by the guys backstage? What happened after your tryout?
Yeah, I mean everybody was real nice to us, and we were told by Shawn that he's gonna give them 2 weeks to decide, and then he's gonna go ask his buddy Kevin Nash, if they're interested. And wow,
Yeah.
and it didn't take long. It was within the week. Uh, the four of us who had the tryout. Uh, it was Shooter Schultz, Lance Cade, Brian Danielson, and myself. We had contract offers within I think a week, certainly within 2 weeks of that match. Yeah, yeah, we were off and running.
Oh man, you must have been overjoyed, over the moon, running around with more energy than ever.
Yeah, but at the same time, I didn't realize it came so soon
Yeah.
that I didn't realize how rare this was. I went to school, had some matches, things were going good, got a tryout, got the contract, and I thought, wow, it's all you have to do is work hard.
Yeah.
Uh, we got lucky though. We were lucky.
How long were you training before you got that contract, before you got the tryout?
With at Shawn School, probably about 8 to 10 months. And
Okay.
I'd already gone to the NWA Southwest School before that, but I'd only done 4 matches there. So yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of time.
Okay. So now what happens once you've got the contract? Tell us what happens next. What did WWE do for you guys next?
They gave us 5 more months. We stayed in San Antonio, then moved to Memphis, which was a developmental territory, and we were in Memphis for about a year or so. And then some of us got fired, myself included. When they shut down Memphis, the other half got shipped to Cincinnati.
Okay.
And so then I moved to LA and tried to go to Japan from there, and eventually did.
Okay. Now, while you were in LA, you went a few times. You went through UPW. We talked about
Mhm,
that, Rick Bassman. So
mhm.
that was on the way. How long were you working with Rick in the UPW?
Um, and maybe 9 months or a year or so.
Okay.
Um, I was looking to get to Japan. It wasn't happening as quick as I had wanted, and Chris Benoit was recovering from surgery in Cincinnati, so I moved to Cincinnati to go hopefully train with Chris Benoit. And then while I was out there, I got a call from California saying, "Come back out here. We want to take you to Japan." So that's
Well,
what I did. I chased it. Yeah.
cool. Did you have to during that meantime, that area, did you have to go back to work and find another job, or were you doing okay financially to be able to, just
Oh no, I was struggling. I was luckily, I've got my dearest buddy Jordan. He said, "Come crash with me. You can come sleep on my floor." He uh he got me a job as a ski lift operator at Mount Baldy.
yeah.
I was coaching at UPW, so I was making some scratch there. Uh, I mean, once a week or so, we'd go out to get all you can eat, $7 Chinese buffet. We'd splurge. I mean, money was tight, but I was able to do what I wanted to do for a living. So
Very good.
yeah, that was it.
Very good. All right, so let's talk about then Japan. So now
Okay.
backing off, you're going to Japan. What was it like just being there? I mean, the difference of the culture and all that. How did you find it?
Yeah, again, it's so young, so it's hard to say because everything's so weird. But yeah, it's undoubtedly different. Um, they it's an all in it together. It's almost like the easiest thing for like an American friend for me to explain it to is like an ant colony or a beehive, or in the sense that everybody's in it together, so nobody cuts anybody off in traffic, nobody steals, nobody tries to fool anybody for any personal gain. I really liked it. uh, it's very clean, but at the same time, it's so different. It's almost like you're on a different planet. I don't know. I love Japan. I love the Japanese people. I love the culture. And it was certainly a shock.
Yeah. How long were you there for?
My first time might have been like, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've done about 40 tours in total, anywhere from a week to about 28 days.
Okay. Wow. So wow. And what about the wrestling style itself? How was that different from what you were used to?
Um, there takes years to understand it did for me. There's totally different. It's a matter of they know it's fake in the sense that this isn't real. They're not fooling themselves, but they're looking for a display of heart. Uh, so if it's Kobashi versus Masawa, there isn't a heel or a baby face. It's whoever's down, they're rooting for to get back up. So they could be rooting for Masawa after he kicks out of a power bomb, kicks out of a clothesline. But finally, when he wham takes back over, they'll erupt. And
Yeah.
then when Kobashi's down and he kicks out of something, whoa, they rumble. And
Yeah.
it's just a completely different style of wrestling. You can't compare the psychology. It's it's the Rocky movie without a heel or baby face. So
Okay.
when they're pulling themselves up, oh my God, what heart! But then he pulls himself up. Oh, I can't believe it! What we're seeing is extraordinary. The the again, the display of will
Yeah.
and passion from these two competitors, but they don't care who wins. They want to just they just want to see an amazing sport. Whereas like Mexico to me seems like it's a comic book where it's frame by frame, the bad guy appears, and now I'm gonna get you. Your doom is imminent.
Yeah,
Instead of attacking him from behind like we would in the States.
got
It's
it.
different styles of wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, much different. And what about in terms of reception, the crowd sizes? Because from what I've seen in Japan, the crowds are pretty vast. You get sellouts out there. Were you wrestling in front of huge numbers of people out there?
No, so it's rare that a show will do the Tokyo Dome. Like New Japan has their Tokyo Dome show once a year. That's their WrestleMania.
Okay.
Other than that, like a sumo hall, something like that. You might be wrestling something that's like an arena size. Still really, really a great thing to wrestle in front
Yeah.
of. Most of the shows would have been maybe 200, 300 people. There's a lot of house shows
Okay.
that aren't in front of crowds, in front of cameras, and they'll be just like in the United States. If you're driving from here to San Francisco, and you'll stop at a town of like 1,200 people, and who lives here? Well, there'll be wrestling shows that go to that town, and 300 people out of that 1,200 person town will show up because there's nothing to do.
Right.
That's a lot of what wrestling is in Japan too. Is wrestling guys like Liger are wrestling in front of a, a town that exists solely because they grow tea,
Okay.
and there's there isn't an elevator in a single building in town. You know what I mean? But they go and wrestle there.
Yeah.
That's wrestling in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah, that's most of it. Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. And in terms of financial, because
Hmm.
you've heard stuff about some of the guys going over there and they do make very good money out there. Is it very lucrative when you go out there?
It depends. Not me. I've always been a cruiserweight who's never been a good negotiator. Uh, so I've made enough to get by. I've never argued for more or put my foot down. Um, but I made okay money when out in Japan. But there's guys in the past who made fantastic money, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
Um, whether it would be, let's say, Kenny Omega when he was on top there. Well, he's on top, and I'm sure he was getting paid like a top guy. Or 30 years ago, 20 years ago, guys like Norton or Steiner,
Mhm.
they'd be making 10,000 a week. But things were different. They were heavyweights.
Yeah, things were a lot different. I was even thinking when you were talking about that about merchandise, because obviously
Mm.
now we've got social media, we got the internet. Of course, you can sell more merchandise. Back then, were you investing yourself in some of your own merchandise?
No, no, and still not something I'm really into. I I want to wrestle. I want to wrestle. I love to wrestle. I
Yeah,
love the act of putting a match together with another performer, having this idea, seeing if it we get these reactions, having something that I think this will be great, and it turns out to be great, or the fact that it could turn out to not be great. There's the uncertainty of it that makes it that much more exciting. But I don't um care to be known or recognized or popular or famous or any of that stuff. I like the art of wrestling,
yeah,
um, the hustle, the money, the any of that stuff. I don't. I find a turn off to me. I feel a resistance towards
yeah,
something inside me feels yeah, it feels icky to me.
yeah,
Which, but the wrestling itself, I'm crazy about. And let's say my a friend like a Zack Ryder, he's a killer, man. Like that guy not only goes out there, puts on great matches, but because he's such a good social media person, the whole world wants to book him. So he
yeah.
gets to have those matches, and then the whole world wants to buy his merchandise too. So he has the entire package. I like those things. I just like to wrestle, just like the rest.
Yeah, but it's good. I mean, like I said, everyone's got their own special traits. So, but having said that, do
Hmm.
you think it's valuable for somebody maybe who's coming up in the ranks to align themselves with a family member or someone like that that can perhaps manage those other affairs. Because I understand as an artist, sometimes you don't want to think about that because then it becomes about the money rather than the art.
Mm,
So do you think it's wise? I mean, have you seen guys that have managers that are wives, brothers, uncles, whatever, or someone who is a professional? Do you think that's a wise move?
I do. I think so. In a time when a lot of pro wrestlers who made a lot of money went broke, Shawn Michaels didn't,
Right.
and he didn't go broke because he gave his money to his dad,
Okay.
and his dad came in and lectured us about all this, and if I would have been smarter, I would have done the same thing. I never made a lot of money, but I did waste a lot of the money that I did make. That
Okay.
if I would have gave it to my mom, who would have gave me an allowance.
Yeah.
Um, what I have done is so far as like social media, it's not something I'm excited about. But I've never had the password to a social media account. My wife runs it. If
Okay.
I need to post something uh, at the request of a promoter, uh, I'd ask my wife
Okay.
because you can wind up ruining your career over social media posts.
Yeah. Oh, there he
Uh,
is.
now, mind you, I've ruined my career over interviews, not social media posts. So I've made my mistake, but a lot of people have done it through social media and
Yeah.
through financial irresponsibility. They've ruined the back end of their lives too. So yeah, I'd recommend having somebody who isn't in the business you're in. Somebody that you knew before you were in the business that you're in, that can ground you, that can slap you in the face and say, get a hold of yourself, and you're wasting this money. And yeah, I think that is a good thought.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know. And then so now you come back from Japan. Let's go back into the story. So coming back from Japan. So what happens next after you start coming back to Japan? Obviously, have you still got your sights set on going back to WWE? Is that still in
Yep.
your heart? Okay. All right. So
Yep.
what happens when you're back in the States then?
Uh, I wind up getting a call from it might have been Jim Ross. I don't remember, but yeah, they called me in for a tryout. I was doing the Ring of Honor and when it just started and 01, and I think this Ring of Honor becoming a this fashionable new and a really exciting new promotion. Um, they started looking at guys there, and they looked at me and gave me a call, called me for a tryout, and I guess I nailed it.
Yeah.
Or not a tryout, but a dark match, and I did enough to get signed. Thanks to my match with Shannon Moore, thank you, Shannon, and that was it. Got signed.
Yeah, you were off to the races, and that takes us
Hmm.
into that. What was it? It was the aggression, ruthless aggression era. So it would have been
Yes,
around what, 2001, 2002 when you debuted. Am I right, or is it a little bit past that?
2002 would have been the TV contract, and I don't know if I made it on TV then or 2003, whether it was doing Velocity or something around that time.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you did early on was that rap battle with John Cena. So
Yes.
how was that? Was that you? Did you memorize that, or did you just are you good with words like that?
So what that was something that Shane McMahon wrote the lyrics to that. Um, John and I had gotten together. John's real real clever, and so we had some jokes. He was able to put them in rap form. Uh, and funny enough, Shane again comes into my life in a important moment, and we I haven't seen Shane all that much in the totality of my life, but yeah, he says, guys, that's just a bunch of inside jokes. Nobody's gonna. That he didn't say this, but what he was implying is that's completely self-indulgent. He was right. Um, then Shane came up with this rap that was real, you know, fat cat, fat hat, but whatever, people got it. And so that was it. Okay, Shane, you got it. You're the boss, and he's the boss for a reason. You remember that moment because Shane wrote a funny rap.
It was definitely good. It was you really handled it so well. I mean, it was I watched it again, just to refresh my memory over the weekend, and yeah, it just looked so natural, so organic at the time. Um, But yeah, no, that was a great way to really help push and get you over with the crowd. It really worked big time.
And that's it. When you're talking earlier about characters, and if let me know something about this kid
Yeah.
before we send him out to the slaughter, and and if it's like, oh, this kid's kind of a jerk, great. Then I can't wait to see him die. And oh, this kid's all right. Now I feel bad for him, but you got to have a rooting interest. Otherwise, it's a base. I don't want to watch baseball if I don't know the teams.
Right.
And anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So you're young, you're in there now. They put you quickly in the tag team, from what I recall, with Paul London. Because
Hmm.
you got tag team champions, right? You got the
Hmm.
tag for a while. So what was it like now making that transition to being part of a team rather than, being a solo wrestler like you'd done before?
Oh, it was nice. What it was is it got us on TV, got us on the house shows, got us to see the world.
Yeah.
Um, when Paul and I were teaming, the only shows that we didn't do that I can say for certainty were the big pay-per-views, Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Rumble Mania. We didn't do those. We didn't do the Raw pay-per-views, but there'd be the SmackDown pay-per-views. So I think we were on all those SmackDown pay-per-views, but we did all the house shows, all the SmackDown house shows. So it was awesome.
Yeah.
For a year we got to see the world.
Yeah. Now, what was the younger fan reaction to you guys? Obviously, you were living it. How were the kids responding to you guys as a team?
Oh, I think they liked us because they saw themselves in us. Um, we were uh we were young like them. We did backflip. We were fast.
Yeah.
And so when you're young, you're little. And when you're little, you see yourself as, well, if you can see somebody that's like you, this person's little and they can do it, I can do it. And so it's just real easy and if you give the little kid a high five, hey, little buddy,
Yeah.
and try to make a connection with them, it's real easy. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you have any of those surreal moments where you kind of in your mind, you trained with Shawn, you were a fan of Shawn, where you're looking at yourself and Paul and maybe thinking about the Rockers? Did you have any moments like that? Like, hey, we're kind of like them now?
Uh, I mean, there's times we could have like realized that okay, you always have the young babyface tag team. They'll last for a year or two, except for the Rock and Roll Express, they lasted forever.
Right.
But it's the same as them or the Hardys or the Rockers or the Young Bucks or any of these. You bring in the two guys, it's typically a blonde and a brunette. You have them go out there and that's it, right? Um, but there was a time when Paul and I are in the ring, I don't know where it was, and and it was Howard Finkel who's doing the ring announce, making their way to the ring, And I think there's a time when Paul and I looked at each other and went to like, this is really cool, man. And Howard Finkel said our names.
Yeah.
Um, that would have been one of those surreal moments where it's an outer body experience that like, I was a kid again.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the thing that is what a blessing to have worked with them. Yeah, because I now you brought up that point. You got to work. Hogan was there in 2000.
Hmm.
Didn't Mean Gene come back for a little while as well? He was doing some. Oh no, maybe that was years later. But was he around?
He might have been. I don't know. I don't know. He might have been because it's so easy to then, despite them being distinct, to conflate Finkel and Okerlund as the two backstage guys. Uh, but I don't know if I know I didn't get to spend any serious time with Okerlund. That's for sure.
Okay, yeah, but you got to meet Hogan. You got
Oh yeah,
Kevin Nash came back that time.
sure,
Ric Flair was there. I
sure.
mean, gosh, you were around them all. And
Yeah.
who did you bond with outside of Paul? Who became good friends with you?
Oh, I mean, I mean a lot of them, but Jimmy Yang, MVP. Uh, these are good buddies, but on my next go around, like Eric Rowan was a guy who I hadn't spent time with previous, who he and I become friends. Uh, yeah, the for the most part, the car ride would be Jimmy Yang, Ron Killings, Vladimir Kozlov, Sho Funaki, and myself would
Okay.
all ride in a van together.
Yeah, oh, that's a great camaraderie there. And you're talking about, your energy. I mean, certainly you got to be in an industry where that having an abundance of energy is perfect to be that all the traveling that you had to do, Gosh,
But you
that's
just got to be able to pick yourself up.
yeah,
That's it. No matter how tired you are, just like, okay, because if you don't, then you don't work, you don't eat.
right, exactly. Now, in terms of structure, though, Brian, because obviously you've got to work out, you've got to eat, you've got to be in the next town the next day, you've got to be at the show. How did you figure out a routine that worked for you so you could get everything done? And what did a typical day look like for you to get it all done?
The days aren't that bad. I mean, so if you're flying out from LA to Des Moines, Iowa, depends on what time you get in, your day might be shot. For me, it'd probably be me getting in earliest. I'd rent the van, maybe go get the hotel room. And then from there, when everybody's in town, uh, we probably go out to eat. That first day might be a wash as far as the gym goes, or if we get in early enough, then you go to the gym.
Yeah.
Uh, from there, your next town is probably 250 miles away, and the show starts at 6 the next day or 7 the next day. So you've got all day to figure it out. If you want to drive that night after the show, halfway, the full way, it doesn't matter. You go to the gym when you want to go to the gym. It's easy.
Yeah.
Um, if you're determined to eat clean, you can. Uh, like Claudio will wind up getting, at least from what I've seen, 3 Chipotle chicken and rice things for the day. So there is no eating junk food at night. He's just eating his chicken and rice.
Right.
Guy, guys who want to do it can do it.
Yeah.
It's just it's it takes effort, and it's real easy to cheat.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Now, in terms of the corporate offices keeping in contact with you guys, did you guys get call? Did you already know the week in advance, or were people calling you like after the show? Hey, we need you here at this time. Was there a constant contact between the so quote unquote suits and the talent, or were you guys left to just figure it out?
Well, you'd usually know. I mean, it changed over the years, but you would know a week or two uh, in advance if you're going to be on the shows coming up.
Okay.
And then what you'd get is you'd get your flight to the first town, and you'd get your flight home,
Okay.
and then you figure out the rest from there. You figure out if you want to ride with anybody. You figure out if you want to rent a car, or if you want to take the bus. I mean, like the Greyhound. It's up to you. You just got to figure out how to get to each one of those towns, and we'll get you there and get you. And
Okay.
that's it.
What were the consequences? Did you ever see, or were you ever involved in not showing up, missing something due to something outside of your control?
I've seen people have to miss shows because of the weather, whatever the heck it is. There's the people understand.
Okay.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
As far as people just deciding they're not showing up to work, screw it, I'm not coming this day. It's always wind up being a disaster.
Yeah.
It's either been some sort of tragedy, uh, or the person has quit and they're not coming back to work ever again. But
Right.
people just don't blow off a day at work.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandably. All right. So let's jump back into the story now. Tag team championship. What was that like? For those who didn't know, who did you defeat to get those belts? And what was that night like for you and Paul?
Yeah, we defeated a tag team called Eminem. Uh, it was Joey Mercury and John Morrison, with Melina as the manager. Uh, I, I don't remember what pay per view. Remember, it was in Arizona. Um, yeah, it was fine. It was nice. I mean, the end of the night was Sho Funaki and I eating at uh either I want to say it was a Waffle House, could have been a Denny's, but I preferred Waffle House, so I think it was a Waffle House.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was a defining moment in my career, but at the same time, when it happened, I celebrated by eating uh yeah, waffles and chicken at
Yeah.
midnight. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Another day at the office.
yeah. Now, how long was that run? That tag team title run?
That one was like 11 months or so. Pretty close to a year. Yeah, it was a good long run.
Yeah, good long run. During that time, were you involved in anything like Make a Wish for the kids or anything like that? Did you do any work with kids during that time?
Nothing. If we did anything, they might have said Paul and I to go down when we're at a building. If there's a Make a Wish kid, stuff like that, I would have done that a half dozen times with kids that are already there.
Yeah.
But no, I've never been sent out on assignment like a John Cena, which is just and that guy is absolutely remarkable
Yeah.
with the Make a Wish stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talking about kids, because obviously you guys have a tremendous impact. I mean, obviously the guys made an impact on you when you were growing up. As you matured through the industry and you maybe realized what you could do, how you could inspire a kid, how did that grow in you to like, okay, yeah, maybe I want to help kids now. I want to talk. I know I've got this platform. Did that kind of change as you matured? Obviously, when you're younger, you're not thinking about that so much, but as you've grown now, do you realize that capability you have, and have you been involved more in actively trying to help kids and what have you?
No, I mean the only kids I tend to help are those that I come in contact with, which wind up being through wrestling school.
Yeah,
Through training kids in wrestling.
yeah,
Um, as far as uh like giving kids any advice, all I can really do is just tell them this is what's been my experience and the results of the mistakes I've made. Um, Trying to tell them what's the right path.
mhm,
Uh, I I don't feel that that's for me to say. I think that right path I'm going to go ahead and assume is different for everybody. Um, but best I could do is help them through again being honest about the mistakes I've made.
yeah,
Um, eh, as far as going out there, being proactively going out there and doing any sort of outreach, um, I don't know if it's in my personality to again uh, um, think this is how you should be, or try to change anybody's uh, uh, um, path. At the same time, I'd be happy to help anybody who asks for help.
yeah,
So long as I can, as long as it doesn't harm myself or others.
yeah. Of course, understandably. All right, so now again back to the story. So you've had your tag team title run. So what happened to for your first exit from W? This would be your second exit from WWE because now you exit. Was it in the mid sort of 2000s?
Mm-hmm.
You came back, I think, in 2000. You had a break, but you were there in 2007, 2008, and
Mm-hmm.
9, correct? So,
Mm-hmm.
so what happened? What kind of happened to have you exit the company for a while?
They fired me.
Yeah.
They fired me. I was doing a singles run at the time. They released me. They said that their uh, creative had nothing for me. That I think that's just a way to absolve themselves from saying it was this, that, or the other, leaving me to have any sort of leaving me without counter. Uh, but if they were to say that it's because I had a bad attitude, they would have been justified. They would have said, "You have a bad attitude. Uh, you know, it has nothing to do with the writing and creative have nothing for you. We don't want to create anything for you because we can't trust you and your attitude. That's something I would have understood.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think at that time that you may have had an attitude, or
Oh,
still?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I had a really bad attitude. I wasn't unique to wrestling. Uh, I wasn't rare in that I had this inflated ego that thought that my in-ring performance was enough for the company, and what more do you want? Because look at what I'm providing. Uh, yeah, I, again, I wasn't unique in that, but I definitely had a bad attitude, and I wasn't bringing in the company enough money to justify that attitude for them to have to put up with that attitude. Why should they?
Right.
Um, so that's what I think ultimately why I was released.
Okay. Now, when you left, did you realize that and start working on that immediately to try to get back in their good graces, or were you? What was it? What was your?
No,
Hmm.
no. You know, it was there. It was just plugging away. Uh, Figuring out what I was gonna do. I went to TNA for a stretch. Uh, Found that to be frustrating. But again, I brought my attitude into it. Um, Got to meet a lot of great people while at TNA though, and then ultimately through well, they wanted to do a cruiserweight tournament, and I was a cruiserweight that they could trust, I guess, and I had the relationships, so I was brought back to the WWE through the cruiserweight opportunity years and years later.
Yeah. Now, are you referencing your 08, 09 run, or are you talking about the 2016, the
2016. So if the '09 that '09 run would have been what they released me from.
okay, okay,
And
good.
so yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, you come back, you've matured considerably. I remember that run at the time, because I just started watching the product again, I think 16, somewhere around there. And I was just blown away with how much the Brian Kendrick character had evolved, and
Mm,
especially the psychology. Totally different from when you were younger. It was like you become this master of the ring now. Weren't you playing with a gimmick like the Wizard or something like that? Or it was
that
something
was
like,
that was yeah, that was something Eric Bischoff came up with the name for. It was the Wizard of Oz.
yeah,
It's a fun one. But
yeah.
I was playing a very uh out there you know, his own guru type lunatic at TNA at the time.
Yeah, yeah, no, very, very good stuff. And you talk about character now development and the gimmick, you had it right there. That
Thank
was
you. Thank
really, really good. So, did you enjoy that run as much, on a personal level as prior when you were with Paul?
Oh, the cruiserweight run was,
Yeah,
well, I prefer that run. That run was a lot of fun. Uh, so far as like the work I was able to do.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I the quality of wrestlers on 205 Live, really, really, really good. So I almost always was guaranteed to have a good opponent.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I love that run.
Okay. And then also at that time you got to, or shortly thereafter, you became a producer for
Mhm.
WWE, working backstage, which makes perfect sense with the psychology that you have for the business. So how did you, what was it like working that dual role, being on screen, but then also helping the guys in the back?
Oh, doing both at the same time is nice. Doing just producing uh isn't fulfilling enough for me at this point in my life. I want to wrestle. I need that outlet. And if you're a producer, uh, under contract, you can't wrestle anywhere. And so that's really tough.
Yeah.
Um, but if I had no desire to wrestle, being a producer is a nice job.
Mhm. Yeah. So you get to that point, you're having that run in 16, 17. You left around what, 2018 from WWE again? Was it 18 or 19?
No. They had me up until it would have been uh Christmas 2021.
Oh, okay. So quite a
That
while.
was yeah, yeah.
Okay. So was that a mutual decision for you to depart at that time, or was that,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, it was over exactly that reason. I wanted to wrestle.
Yeah.
And so I was given my release.
Okay. And then since then, obviously you've worked a lot on the independents, but you also, you have your own promotion. You've
Mhm.
got that, you're coaching as well. So
Yes.
how's that coming along?
It, it gives me something to do, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Um, it and when we talk about like giving back to kids, I don't know what to give back except what I've learned in wrestling. And so to try to give back in any sort of way, and it's something that I don't feel like it's some sort of penance that I have to pay. It's something I enjoy doing. I want to do it. And by running a wrestling show, these some of these wrestlers on the show, they don't wrestle anywhere else except for on this show. So like I guess that's my way of giving back, giving people who I like an opportunity to do what it is that I also love.
Yeah, that's awesome. And predominantly, where do those shows or where have those shows ran so people can know?
They ran out of Burbank, California forever and ever and ever until we lost the building. Now we're negotiating for a place that'll be, we'll see what happens, fingers crossed. That'll be in Venice, Marina del Rey area.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Yeah, to bring
I
them.
hope we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And but if you were to get it, if it does go through, pray for you that it does. Would it be sort of a weekly thing, monthly thing, or just
Month,
monthly?
monthly.
Monthly.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of your school, Brian, so is this public? How can people get in contact with you if they did want to train under you?
Yeah, as of right now, what I do is I train kids at the Inoki Dojo in Los Angeles. I charge nothing. The dojo, I believe they charge 20 or $25 like ring fee or whatever, because the boards do cost money and so do lights and all that stuff. Um, and just any of my former students or local wrestlers who want to come in on a Thursday morning to come in and train, I just teach them some stuff, taught them how to do a tackle into an arm drag, like really bizarre French stuff. And yeah, just do that for fun.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my way of giving back.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's really cool, man. That's really cool. Any other bookings you've got coming up in the interim? We know you wrestled this past weekend out in Southern California here. Anything else coming up on the horizon where people can watch out for you back in the ring?
Yeah, I'm gonna be up in Vaughan, Washington this weekend, near where I grew up, near Olympia. I think I'm in Arizona the weekend after that, and then Philadelphia the weekend after that. Just kind of bouncing around,
Yeah.
just getting to see the world. I'm gonna be in Chile soon,
Wow.
for wrestling. Yeah, yeah. So I've never got to spend time in Chile before. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's really
yeah.
cool.
That's what I'm doing now.
That's so fantastic. And you mentioned your wife. So your wife of now, when were you married? 08 or something?
Oh,
Somewhere
wait,
around there?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So 17, almost 17 years. Does she travel with you as much as she can?
No, it's been a long time since she's traveled with me. Uh, we hope to. I got back from 3 weeks out in the UK, and oh my God, I do this after every trip I go. We got to move here. We got to move here. But London, I'm convinced is the. I've got a lot of other cities I got to visit, but I think London might be the most beautiful city in the world. I can't believe it, and I'm trying to convince my wife, you got to go to London with me. You imagine New York City, but with like 100 more parks in it, without any lunatics, with people who aren't pushing and shoving, without the graffiti. So, I don't know. I wish she would come with me.
Yeah, she should. I took my wife there for the first time a couple of years ago because I grew up in the UK, obviously. But yeah, London is, and also, history. The
Yeah.
history is
Yes.
so rich and vibrant. The architecture. Obviously, I'm not sure if you speak French, but if you just hop over to the other side, to France, Paris, likewise,
Mm,
is just absolutely stunning, and just it's beautiful, it's clean,
mm,
uh, just again full of history. And that's another place that I would encourage you to just, yeah, but even if you just visit, to go to
yeah.
Paris. Yeah, it's beautiful out there. So, quite one last question, Brian, because I thought about this morning. What to you is the meaning of life?
I would see the meaning of life is to find meaning in life.
Good one. Yeah, yeah, good one.
Thank you. All right. All right. Yeah.
Good one. Good one. All right. So, Brian, stay on the line. I'm just going to say goodbye to all our viewers. Thank you for joining us today on this episode of Victoire. Thank you, Brian Kendrick, the Brian Kendrick.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely a pleasure. He's a wonderful man, great, mind for pro wrestling. And we want to thank you for being a guest here today. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Until next time, everybody, victor what you must victor in your life. I'm Emir. This has been Victoire. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Victoire. This has been Brian Kendrick, and I am Emir. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel, like and share our videos. It helps us spread these stories near and far. And until next time, victor what you must victor in your life. This is Victoire.